Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. I think we had a wonderful week, and I was suffering a little bit of the cold. I'm just now in recovery. Actually, I've healed, but just my voice is recovering. Not quite 100% yet. It will be in a day or two. And so, interestingly, this joke came through. Somebody told me this joke recently, and they said this is a true story, although I found it possibly maybe made up, but I think it probably is a true story. What happened was there was a cat. There's an area in the city where there's a family. They were talking about this man having a cat, and the cat was all over him in the family and all that. And one day they got really upset for whatever reason, and maybe the cat was doing something they didn't like. So they decided that they wanted to get rid of the cat. And so what they did is one of them, took the cat somewhere in the city and left it there and came back. And the next day the cat came back home, found his way back. Then the second day, another member of the family took the cat and left her, somewhere further outside the city limits. And then a couple of days passed and the cat still came back home. And then the third day, I think the main head of the household took the cat and put the cat somewhere further outside the city. And then when he was coming back, he lost his way. And then he found home and he said, I came back to drop the cat, but I've now lost my way to the house. I don't know which way is the house. So can you please send the cat to me to find me? So that's the gist of the joke. Now the thing is this, that the Torah reading this week is regarding Jacob and his brother, his twin brother Esau. Now, not so much the story of Esau and how Jacob tries to appease him or how they try to reconcile, because God is with Jacob, and the story, it begins in Genesis chapter 32 and verse 3, where it says, Then Jacob sent messages before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, Speak thus to my master Esau, Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my master that I may find favor in your sight. Okay, so, here Jacob is talking about the blessings that God has given him. When Jacob went to his uncle Laban, who's also his father-in-law, when he went there, he, at that time, did not have nothing. He was empty-handed. The only thing he had with him, if you really want to know, is Torah, education. That's the only thing he had. He had nothing else. And he really had no skills either. So when he went there, God blessed him so much that he built up oxes, donkeys, flocks, camels, sheep, you name it, left, right, and center. He was so blessed that even Laban tried to cheat him many, many times, changing his salary. But eventually, he departed from the country with his goods and his 4 wives at the time, and he left. Now, of course, Esau, his brother, was greatly angry at Jacob, and the anger or the feud started with the blessing of Jacob and his father. When the father blessed him instead of Esau, who was technically older. Jacob was a younger, and the twin, when they were born, Jacob was born second and Esau was born first. So he was very angry with him because Esau was angry that Jacob had stolen his blessing, while Jacob was that he sold it. his birthright, his blessing, Jacob bought it for a plate of soup, lentil soup. So Jacob rightfully took it because that's what his mother had told him, that you got to take that blessing. It belongs to you, not to your brother. And so she made, it's a whole elaborate story of Jacob wearing goat's hair on his hands or on his arms, pretending to be hairy because his brother was hairy and he was clean shaved on his arms. And so the whole elaborate story goes that his mother told him, he then went and took the blessing. Isaac was elderly. Isaac couldn't see properly. Isaac was only feeling with his hands. But there is a moral to that story, which I will discuss a little bit here. And then this story comes over here, and we are now looking at Jacob receiving a blessing from God. Now, there are two parts to this story. The first part is this, that listen to your mother, provided she is righteous, of course. Listen to your mother, provided she is righteous, and you will benefit with the blessing. Similarly with the father as well. If you have righteous parents, you should listen to them. If you have unrighteous parents, then it's debatable whether you listen to them or not, because you always listen to your teacher. Your teacher is always higher than your parents. If your parents are righteous or unrighteous, your teacher comes first, your parents come second. But if your parents are unrighteous, they're not going to guide you. They're only going to distract you. They're only going to speak nasty words to you. And they're going to try to keep you down and lower if they're unrighteous. Even some righteous parents don't know how to bring up children, so they speak nasty words, they say bad words. It's like common to them. They scold their children. And in the end, when children grow up, they grow up with insecurities and belief system issues where, they've adapted wording from their parents, because wording like parents might say, you're good for nothing, you're a loser, you're this, you're that, you'll never make for anything. Those kind of words that impact you in your younger years, and in your mature years, they impact you a lot. They impact you in your relationships. You may have terrible relations as a result of that, because you think to yourself you're good for nothing. And so you may have very bad relationships. So when you have this cycle, you got a relationship and it broke up. Then you got into another relationship and it broke up. Then another one. When you see this cycle, know this for sure, that this came from your childhood. So you got to fix it. How do you fix something like that, where you continuously have bad relations, breakup of marriages, divorce, 1 divorce, 2 divorce, 3 divorce, etc.? Very simple, very easy. You got to understand where the problem is, because you can't keep blaming the wife and saying she is a problem. And if the wife is the problem, you made her the problem. Why? Because you're destroying your own relationship, because it's a childhood issue. It's an issue you were brought up with. It's an issue. It's a command. It's a wording that your parents gave you. If they said to you, "You're good for nothing," that word will go very, very far into your life, into your relationship. It will destroy your relationships. It's that bad. That word is so bad, it destroys relationships. It destroys your careers. So we got to go back, like in the movie. Remember that movie? Where Back to the Future, where he goes back to the future, where he goes back and he fixes his past, so his present and his future is secured. You have to do similarly. You must go back and fix your past. Because remember, your past is nothing but your present. And your future is nothing but your present. Time is linear in the sense, to our brains, it might appear we had a past, we have a present, and we have a tomorrow, which is a future. But eternity if we look at from a God's angle, there is no past, present, future. There's only one time, and that is present. So because eternity is one. In eternity, you do not have a past. You do not have a future. You only have one time. So, I know, we've been given brains that cannot fathom that. Our brain cannot fathom a past, a one-time model. But we have to remember we are in a one-time model. So what is the past? So when your mom or your dad said to you, you're good for nothing, and it could be different wording, it doesn't matter, you got to go back and fix it. How do we fix it? We go back and we tweak the memory. It's just a memory, and we still have it in our head. So our past is only a memory. It's only a small bank of memory. So we go back and we rehearse the scene where if your mother or father were cursing you down, you rehearse the scene to the point where they never cursed you down, where they blessed you. So how do we do that? Very simple. You close your eyes, you think back in time, you picture your parents, and instead of cursing you, they're blessing you. They're not cursing you, they're blessing you. And you turn the curse into a blessing. That's what actually happened with Jacob. Jacob took the blessing and he was trying to show us exactly that you can change your curse into a blessing. Because technically, Jacob was a second son. He wasn't meant to get the main blessing. His brother was, but he took the blessing. So his brother said that you cheated me. However, the brother did sell his birthright, but the point being is that you can have the same birthright. In other words, you can have the blessing. You don't need to have a secondary blessing, or you don't need to live in curses. God presents us in the book of Deuteronomy, 5th book, with a set of blessings and a set of curses. Which would you want? Of course you want the blessings, not the curses. So therefore, you want to go back in time, in space, in history. And if this can go to your bad marriages. If you had a bad marriage with a spouse and you kind of broke up and you then divorced, you can go back in time and fix that. You can change that memory that you had a great relationship. And even though your divorce doesn't change, it's in history. You still will have that divorce paper, but it doesn't matter because you fix the present and you fix the future. In other words, your present and your future relationship will become wonderful. They'll become marvelous. Why? Because you removed that little thing that kept you from having a great relationship. That little thing that where you kept fighting with your spouse, or where you, for no reason, got upset with your spouse. When you remove that reason and you see that you had a wonderful relationship with your spouse, you move forward and now you will have a wonderful relation. And then on top of that, if you had an affirmation that says you have wonderful relations, that you always have wonderful relations, when you live with that affirmation on a day-to-day basis, I have wonderful relations, you are automatically fixing your bad behavior in the past. So here, Jacob's story with Esau is similarly worded, and there is a silver lining in it. It's a mystical story of how you can fix your past. So Jacob here is trying to fix his past by appeasing Esau. Now, don't look at Esau as a person, and don't look at Jacob as a person. See this between the battle of good and evil. Okay? Between good and evil. Whenever we push against evil, we push against it hard, we incur more evil because we're pushing against it. And when we do not believe in evil, evil exists, right? Evil is in the world, in the guise of people, of course. It's people. People can do good and bad, and we say, one is evil and one is not. We are setting up two powers. We are setting up the power of God, and we are setting up the power of evil. When we believe in evil, we believe in two powers, by the way, two powers. But we do not want to believe in two powers. We only want to believe in one power, the power of God, only the power of good. This is why Jesus, when he was referring to his students, when he's speaking to them, he said to them that don't fight against evil. Don't push against it. Because evil technically don't exist. We make it exist by believing in it. Technically it don't exist. But we make it exist because we believe in it. But if we stop believing in it, if we only believe in good, the only good can happen, then evil will have no power. Sure, there are still bad people in the world because evil is only a definition of people. There are still bad people in the world, but by you believing that there is only good, you diminish the power of evil. That's what and how you need to think. So, in this particular chapter, chapter 32, we see that Jacob, after trying to appease Esau, which is technically evil, right? Technically evil in a person. So do not appease evil. Do not appease it, because that is not the way evil is overcome. So, secondly, within this chapter, we also see that Jacob wrestles an angel all night when he's given a new name. Okay? So, here when he's wrestling with the angel, it says a man wrestled with him. In chapter 32, verse 24 of Genesis, it says, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that it did not prevail against him, he touched his socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So Jacob forced the angel to bless him. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, my name is Yaakov. And he said, you shall no longer be called Yaakov, Jacob. Your name henceforth will be called Israel, as a prince with power from Elohim, and you shall overcome all men. So, the point being that you can receive the blessing from God. It belongs to you, but you got to claim it. Just believing belongs to you is not enough. You got to claim it, okay? You got to claim your blessing and receive it. And if you claim your blessing and receive it, you will get it. Means you got to persist. How do you persist? The whole point of teaching somebody an affirmation is to persist in it. You know, when you say that, let's take an example, shall we? We'll take an example of a scripture, and I'm going to give you an example. Let me find one. Let me find an appropriate example. When you say that I am rich, okay, let's just take a simple example. When you say I am rich, then by you reciting it every day, you're actually fine-tuning yourself. Okay? You're fine-tuning yourself. Instead of moaning and complaining and whining and saying, this is not right, that is not right, he said this to me, she said that to me, she don't like me, he don't like me. Instead of whining all day long, all complaints, which only going to come round and round and round, because all you're doing, you're programming yourself to whine. And some of you do that. Believe me, some of you do that. You know, some of you out there are whining all day long. You're saying, that man, he didn't give me a chance. He's that white guy over there, he did this to me, he's not good, he's racist. I think, that woman over there, she didn't give me a chance. See, complaining only brings more complaints. Whining brings more whining. Happiness, even a small amount of happiness, will bring more happiness. Small amount of wealth, small amount of riches will bring more riches. It's how you use it. It's how you bless yourself. When you give thanks, when you give gratitude for the things you have, when the meal you eat, you give thanks. When the breakfast you have, you give thanks. And when the bed you sleep in, you give thanks. you are now giving gratitude for everything in life that you get. So more will be given to you. It will multiply because you're not complaining, you're not whining. You're actually thankful of, even if it's little, then the little will become more. The story goes of a little child, and that story of the little child was told, I believe, in a couple of the books. I think one was a book of Neville, and another one was maybe a book of Dr. Murphy. It was Millikan, who was a little child. He was a poor little child, poor little kid, and he came up with an affirmation that went something like this. He said, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. And he said to himself as a child, if I'm right and I get this, then I will have everything I want. And by the way, this was a little kid. He was poor. He wasn't all that, the rich at the time. And he just decided to do this one affirmation every day. He lived with it every day. Now, you can read up his story. It's called Dr. Millikan. And he became a Nobel Prize winner in 1923 for the measurement of elementary electronic charges in physics. And when he became rich, he had money, he had assets. So he actually left assets and money for his children, his sons, and perhaps daughters as well. But my point being that he only lived with one affirmation. And this is what I'm saying to you. Instead of running around and using your mouth to curse everybody down, then start to bless everybody. Then start to use your mouth for good to yourself. Say good things about yourself. When you go into the bathroom, instead of thinking, oh, I don't know what's going to happen today, and I don't know what my dad's going to say, what my mom's going to say, she's going to curse me down, and I don't know what my boss is going to say. So instead of doing that, this is a kind of routine that people go through. How about you start blessing yourself? How about you start saying, I am blessed. I am great. I'm terrific. I'm marvelous. I'm special. I'm chosen. How about you just pick up a few of those and you start saying them every day? Just like Dr. Millikan, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. It's a great affirmation. Say it. Use it. If it worked for Dr. Millikan, it can work for you as well. So instead of being nasty to your employer or speaking bad words about your employer in your mind, in your inner talk, complaining, start to bless him. Start to say good things about him. And then the good that you do, the good that will come. In other words, do not believe in two powers. Do not believe in evil and God. Because when you believe in two powers, you erected evil. When you erected evil for yourself, you will encounter evil continuously because you believed in two powers. And I'm not saying that there's only good people in the world. Of course, evil is always enacted through people. So why should we even focus on that? We need not. We only need to focus on the good. And the good we focus on, the good we receive. That is the secret to success. The secret to success is that you continue to believe in good. Even if bad things happen around you, you accept it and you say good will come out of it. And you continue to believe in the good that God can give you. And when you continue to believe in the good that God can give you, Jacob is really a story of our ancient fathers who, whatever mistakes they made, whatever good they did, and the mistakes they made, it is to teach us today how to live, not to enact the same mistakes. We are not to do the same mistakes and reflect as our forefathers did. Yes, there are many great things they did. We have to do those great things. minus the mistakes, and then we can benefit from those. So instead of having this whining and she's no good and he's no good and my employer is idiot, my manager is stupid, instead of doing that, why not say my manager is great, she is great, she's wonderful, my boss is wonderful, my mom is great, my dad is wonderful. In spite of them being bad to you, you continue to speak great words about them. You continue to see them as good. Whatever you see in your mind is what you will reflect in your outer world. Whatever is inner will reflect in the outer. So my suggestion to you is to take a little card, index card, piece of paper if you don't have index card, write on a piece of paper maybe 2-3 things, and repeat them like a robot every day. Believe in it. Even if you don't believe in it, repeat it like a robot every day. One of those should be, I am blessed beyond measure. I am great. I am special. I am chosen. These are some of the things, some of the ideas that I'm giving you. Again, the Robert Millikan one, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. So you shall. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening. If you listen to this much, if you like to donate to our cause of Torah, and if you like to become a student, we post our videos on YouTube. You can donate your tithes, tzedakah, your offerings through the website at forever-israel.com and donate now. You can send through Cash App, $SIMALT. So there are a number of ways you can donate. I encourage you to stick with us, stay with us, and I do post private lectures to my students who are sincere and faithful and doers of the Torah. They do get private lectures, and so you can become part of that list if you desire, by becoming a member and by becoming a regular tither. Okay, with that, I'd like to thank you. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Also, not to forget that 13th of December is Hanukkah according to the Enoch calendar. If you wish to celebrate it, that's day 1. Okay, so you're going to have 8 days of celebration, and you can light your candelabra, your little Hanukkah candle, and do that for 8 days consecutively from right to left. Those of you who celebrate the lunar calendar one, because we do the solar, and if you do the lunar calendar, then that is on the 19th of December is the first day. So have a wonderful Hanukkah for those of you who do that. Shabbat Shalom to you.